So it is now time for that business news, starting with the fallout today from the Trump administration's decision last week to restrict American companies' ability to do business with Chinese tech giant Huawei. And Brian Quinn is with us in the studio now.
Just the eye candy here now. Actually, Stuart, top U.S. tech firms are beginning to cut Huawei off from both software and hardware, with Google barring the company from updates to its popular Android operating system. U.S. chipmakers, including Qualcomm and Broadcom, are also halting their supplies, though Huawei appears to have been prepared for the move. Solange Moujan has the details.
A plethora of Huawei phones to choose from, but the next versions may not have apps like Gmail or YouTube, or even be run on Android. After a ban by the United States last week, multiple U.S. corporations, including Google, Alphabet, and Intel, said they will no longer trade with the Chinese tech giant. Google said they've halted business, except for open source software. Huawei phone owners will still be able to update their apps, but Android security updates may no longer be possible. The impact is expected to be minimal in China, where most Google apps are already banned, but it is a blow for Huawei in its second market, Europe, where apps like Gmail are a necessity to stay competitive. According to media sources, the Shenzhen-based company is developing its own operating system, for it had been expecting the ban. Not only the world's #2 smartphone maker, Huawei is also the world's largest telecom hardware manufacturer. As such, it buys around $67 billion in components a year, and it is said to have stockpiled the American-made chips it needs for the coming months. In the U.S., companies that rely on Huawei hardware could also soon be feeling the pinch. Huawei is currently in the middle of the ongoing American and Chinese trade war. The ban is likely to escalate tensions, and it comes as the company had already been struggling to roll out its 5G network. Amid fears by multiple governments, it could be used as a spying tool by Beijing.
And indeed, the U.S. and China appear to be at an impasse as they seek an end to that year-long trade war. No new talks have been scheduled since the Huawei ban. Over the weekend, China's foreign minister urged the U.S. to show restraint and stop damaging the country's companies. Earlier in May, Trump raised U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods after Beijing demanded changes to previously negotiated agreements. Speaking to Fox News Sunday, Trump said any eventual trade deal would have to favor the U.S.
But I told him, I said, look, this can't be like a 50-50 deal. This has to be a deal. You're so far ahead from presidents that allowed you to get away. This can't be a 50-50 deal. Anyway, we had a very strong deal. We had a good deal. And at the end, they changed it. And I said, that's okay. We're going to tariff their products. And we put a 25% tariff on their products.
And checking in on the markets now. Asian indexes mixed Monday amid those trade tensions. The Nikkei in Tokyo closing up 0.25% as new data shows Japan's economy grew at an annualized rate of over 2% for the first quarter, despite expectations of a contraction. Chinese indexes losing ground, though, as expected. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite each off by 0.5%. The Kospi and Seoul closing exactly flat. European indexes opening in the red as investors fret over geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and Iran. London just underneath the flat line. The CAC 40 here in Paris down around 0.25%. The Frankfurt DAX down 0.1% at the open. Oil futures rising Monday after oil-producing countries agreed to continue limiting production at this weekend's OPEC meeting. Brent crude up right around 1.4%. Similar gains for WTI as it trades just over $63.60 a barrel. OPEC countries and Russia sticking to their plan to cut output by 1.2 million barrels daily for the first half of the year. Saudi Arabia says it's looking to reduce inventories gently as ongoing tensions between the U.S. and Iran send supply jitters through the market. U.S. sanctions on both Venezuela and Iran have drastically reduced those countries' outputs, though the Saudis say they think plenty of Iranian oil is still making it to market.
I think there is a lot of oil that is leaving the shores of Iran or the borders of Iran that is not accounted for as Iranian oil, and it's presenting in the markets, and therefore we're not seeing as much demand for other crudes as many analysts are expecting, which is one of the uncertainties, I think, and realities that we have to deal with in deciding what to do in the second half.
And finally, for business, bad news for bacon lovers around the world. China's ongoing African swine fever epidemic has resulted in massive losses to the country's pork industry, with up to 200 million hogs to be culled in an effort to stop the spread of the disease. That's leaving a 5% hole in the global meat market, and prices are set to rise, with analysts predicting a 15% hike in meat prices globally as China boosts its imports. Some are seeing an opportunity, though. Hong Kong startup Right Treat has developed a plant-based pork substitute that's set to hit the Chinese market later this year. Meat substitutes are already a $15 billion market in Asia. That's one that's predicted to grow by another $2.5 billion in the next 5 years. Bad news for the industry and for the pigs, but pretty good timing for these guys.
Yeah, I could do with a taste test.
Yeah, we'll see what we can work out.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Brian with the Brian with the business news, rather, of France 24. Thanks.